My name's Arthur. Thank you for joining me as we share together Exodus chapter 32. We've taken 7 days to read the 7 chapters describing the details of the tabernacle, the furnishings of the tabernacle, the clothes for the priests, and the appointment of skilled artisans who would build everything according to the pattern that was shown Moses on the mountain. But while that's taken us 7 chapters, Moses received it over 40 days. And at the end of that period of time, the Lord made an end of speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, and he gave him 2 tablets of the testimony, tablets of stone, written with the finger of God. We continue the account from chapter 32. Now when the people saw that Moses delayed coming down from the mountain, the people gathered together to Aaron and said to him, "Come, make us gods that shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." And Aaron said to them, "Break off the golden earrings that are in your ears, in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people broke off the golden earrings that were in their ears, and brought them to Aaron. And he received the gold from their hands, and he fashioned it with an engraving tool, and made a moulded calf. Then they said, "This is your God, O Israel, that brought you out of the land of Egypt." So when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made a proclamation, and said, "Tomorrow is a feast of the Lord." Then they rose early on the next day, offered burnt offerings, and brought peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat and drink, and rose up to play. And the Lord said to Moses, "Go, get down, for your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made themselves a moulded calf, and worshipped it, and sacrificed to it, and said, 'This is your God, O Israel, that brought you out of the land of Egypt.' And the Lord said to Moses, 'I have seen this people, and indeed it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I may consume them, and I will make of you a great nation.' Then Moses pleaded with the Lord, his God, and said, 'Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians speak and say, He brought them out to harm them, to kill them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce wrath and relent from this harm to your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by your own self, and said to them, I will multiply your descendants as the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of I give to your descendants, and they shall inherit it forever.' So the Lord relented from the harm which he said he would do to his people. And Moses turned and went down from the mountain, and the 2 tablets of the testimony were in his hand. May the Lord bless these words to us. The whole aim of the exercise of building the tabernacle was that God would dwell in the midst of his people, that they would be a holy people who would follow him, walking in his ways. This is the promise that they'd made. God had spoken to them from the mountain. The people had responded with one voice, "All the words which the Lord has said we will do." And Moses had written all the words of the Lord down, and he had read them to the people. And the people, when they heard the words the second time from Moses, had repeated again, "All that the Lord has said we will do, and be obedient." And so they had formally made a covenant. It had been sprinkled with the blood of sacrifice, and the leaders of the nation had eaten before the Lord and seen the glory of heaven. They saw the God of Israel, under his feet as it were a paved work of sapphire stone, and it was like the very heavens in clarity. And the Lord had not judged them when this had happened. With that vision in the minds of the leaders of the nation, Moses had gone up on the mountain, where he received the instructions of the tabernacle, with emphasis on make sure you build it according to the pattern shown you on the mountain. A courtyard of curtains with an entrance on the east. When you came in, there was the altar, where the priest would offer your burnt offerings. The priests were to offer a lamb as a burnt offering every morning and every evening on this altar. The priests could take the blood of sin offerings from the altar into the tabernacle. First they went past the laver, where they would wash their hands and feet, that they might be clean always in the presence of God. And as they entered the tabernacle itself, they would find the table bearing showbread on the right and the lamp on the left, and in front of them a curtain. Before the curtain was the altar of incense, and at the altar of incense they would burn incense morning and evening, representing the prayers of the people. Behind the curtain was to be the Ark of the Covenant, the box covered with gold that would bear the 10 Commandments written on 2 tablets of stone, and above the box a lid called the mercy seat, on which 2 cherubim were engraved, and it would be on the mercy seat that the blood of the sacrifice for sin would be sprinkled, that God might have mercy on his people. But before they'd even had a chance to build this, while Moses was away for 6 weeks up on the mountain, they had got impatient and said, "Where is Moses? We don't know what's happened to him. Make us a god that we can worship." And so Aaron had said, "Well, break off your earrings and give them to me." Evidently he passed them on to some workmen, who fashioned out of it a golden calf, modelling the things that they had seen in Egypt, and then declared, "This is your God, O Israel, that brought you out of the land of Egypt." When Aaron saw what had been built, he seems confused. He sought to reinterpret it for the Lord by building an altar and proclaiming a feast. Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord. And so the next day they offered burnt offerings and peace offerings and had a party. The people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. While Moses was unaware of this, God was very much aware of it, and saw that they had turned aside from the commandment, the very first part of which was, "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or is in the water under the sea. You shall not bow down to them or serve them." And that's exactly what they were doing. And so the Lord said, "I must destroy these people. Moses, we can start again with you." But Moses' immediate reaction was, "No, Lord." He has absolutely no ambition for himself. His concern, as a shepherd of the people, is for them, and for the reputation of the God that he serves. What will the Egyptians say? They'll say you destroyed these people because you couldn't look after them in the wilderness, and it will be a bad reflection upon you. And you made your promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, using the covenant name Israel rather than the natural name Jacob. And you promised to multiply these people as the stars of heaven. And so, because of Moses' intercession, the Lord relented from the harm which he said he would do for his people. James reminds us that the effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. Moses was righteous and he was fervent in his prayer. He didn't pray according to what the children of Israel deserved. He prayed for the glory of God, the honour of God before the heathen, that the nations would know the character of the God of Israel. His character, as we'll soon see, is one of grace, of mercy, of patience, of goodness, of truth, of forgiveness, and of judgment. Nevertheless, there has to be some consequences, and so Moses comes down the mountain to confront the people.